Thanjavur gets India's first Sukhoi, multi-role Sukhoi MKI fighter jet squadron with the BrahMos missile in southern India. The induction was in the presence of Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat. Also present was the Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal R.K.S. Bhadoria at Thanjavur. The Tiger Shark Squadron will combat Chinese threat in the Indian Ocean region. Abhishek Bhalla gets you our top story tonight. A suspicious Chinese vessel spotted in Indian waters. Under the garb of a research crew, the ship suspected to be snooping on India's submarines and warships in waters off the Andaman Islands. A ship identified as Shinyan 1 had to be chased away by the Indian Navy. This was last month and was only the latest in a string of audacious Chinese incursions into India's exclusive economic zone in the Indian Ocean region. And India has just taken long-awaited action to deter China from adventures like these. Peninsular India today received its first operational fighter squadron, a permanent squadron of Su-30 fighters in Thanjavur, Tamil Nadu. The Indian Air Force's most capable jet is specifically configured here for missions over the Indian Ocean. And for that difficult task, these jets come armed formidably. The Su-30s at the newly resurrected Tiger Shark Squadron in Thanjavur will be the first to be armed with the BrahMos anti-ship cruise missile, a 400-kilometer range game-changing weapon that no adversary will manage to see coming. Today's induction assumes huge significance as it finally gives India a powerful deterrent capability specifically pointed at Chinese activities in the Indian Ocean region. The country's new Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, attended the ceremony too.
From here, it can dominate the seas, provide very close and integrated support to the Indian Navy by protecting the vulnerable areas and vulnerable points that lie in the southern theatre.
Su-30 with BrahMos is the strongest maritime combination that we have in terms of weapon capability. And for that, Thanjavur is the ideal location because of access to both on the east and west side and the IOR region. And in support of the Navy, I think it will bring huge capability.
The purpose of the squadron is deterrence, to give Chinese planners food for thought before planning any adventures in the Indian Ocean. The strength of such weaponry is maximum if they never need to be used. But if push comes to shove and matters escalate in the Indian Ocean, these jets can be airborne in minutes and hostile vessels will not have time to react before they are locked and targeted. Here is how an extreme scenario would play out. Tiger Sharks alert. Chinese vessels on notice. Indian Navy would first warn the Chinese vessel. Indian Navy would attempt to coerce the vessel. 3 Indian Air Force Su-30s would appear as a warning. Final warning would be issued to the Chinese vessel. Su-30 would fire the BrahMos missile at the Chinese vessel. The Su-30 jets will function in tandem with the Indian Navy's P-8Is long-range maritime reconnaissance aircraft based 300 kilometers north in Tamil Nadu's Arakonam. Together, their gaze will extend across India's island territories and the entire Indian Ocean region. India's eyes will finally have very formidable teeth. With Shiv Arur and Abhishek Bhalla, Bureau Report, India Today. India Today's Shiv Arur and Abhishek Bhalla now join me for more on this story. But before I go to Shiv Arur and Abhishek Bhalla, let me tell you a little more about the Su-30 MKI. Now, the Sukhoi 30 MKI, they are multi-role combat aircraft. They're twin-engine fighter jets. They'll now be equipped with the supersonic cruise missile, the BrahMos. Now, this aircraft now capable of carrying medium-range air-to-air missile also. So, a BrahMos can hit a target up to 4 kilometers and a little more distance away. A Su-30 MKI can stay in the air with the help of mid-air refuelers for up to 10 to 11 hours and can carry up to 10 tons of weapons. So these are very advanced 4th generation fighter jets. They're all-weather, long-range fighter jets with the Indian Air Force. So as we talk about these aircraft, let me quickly bring in both Shiv Arur and Abhishek Bhalla for more on the story. Shiv, this truly promises to be a game changer.
No, let's be very clear. Sukhoi 30s are highly formidable jets. They form the frontline backbone of the Indian Air Force. And armed with the BrahMos, their effect has to be deterrent effect. It has to be about convincing India's adversaries not to do something that they otherwise would. Otherwise they would face the consequences. But if you look at an operational scenario, take for instance, in an extreme scenario, if there is a ship snooping on India, a Chinese ship snooping on India, or any kind of hostile ship snooping on India, there will be a list of things that will be done before such awesome force like the BrahMos is actually deployed. First, there will be efforts to convince the ship to leave India's exclusive economic zone. If that doesn't happen, then a Navy warship will try and get close to the ship. An audio signal will be given. All manner of recourses will be, looked at before the last resort, which will be hostile action in the form of the Su-30 firing a BrahMos at such a ship. It's very unlikely that such a possibility will ever come to pass.
Okay.
But having such a capability is what sends out that deterrent message to India's adversaries, including China.
This is the deterrence part that the Indian Air Force now has. Now, Abhishek, with the mid-air refuelers and the capacity to carry up to 10 tons of weapons, the Su-30s and the BrahMos missile make a very formidable force in this region, the Indian Air Force.
That's right, and the reason why Thanjavur has been chosen as the new squadron of the Su-30, which is armed with the BrahMos, is because it's extremely strategic. It's close to the eastern coast, and when everybody is talking about integration, this new squadron truly represents synergy between the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy. So it's also going to be a good test of the synergy between forces, and perhaps that's the reason why CDS General Bipin Rawat was also there for the right messaging, because the power of Air Force will definitely augment naval operations in the region, and of course the eyes are obviously on the Chinese threat, as we've been discussing, that it's perhaps a deterrence that will ensure that the Chinese vessels that have been making forays into the Indian Ocean region do not do so.
Abhishek and Shiv, for the moment, many thanks for joining me. Now, based on very specific intelligence, the security forces swooped down on a village in Shopian, and in under 28 minutes of issuing a warning, neutralized 3 armed Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists in Kashmir. One of the slain terrorists, Adil, was earlier a special police officer. He'd run away with 8 AK-47 assault rifles. The security forces see this operation as a major success in neutralizing armed terrorists in the Kashmir Valley. Ashraf Wani with this report. In a swift anti-terror operation, 3 terrorists of the Hizbul Mujahideen organization were killed in an encounter in Shopian district of Kashmir.
शोपियां में एक और कामयाब ऑपरेशन इस साल का हुआ, जिसमें 3 दहशतगर्द एनकाउंटर के दौरान मारे गए हैं।
One of the slain terrorists killed in the Vachi area has been identified as Adil Sheikh, a special police officer who had deserted the force in 2018 and decamped with 8 AK-47 assault rifles.
आदिल शेख वो शख्स है जो 29 सितंबर 2018 को जवाद नगर की जगह से एजाज अहमद वशी जो उस वक्त एमएलए थे उनके रेजिडेंस से वेपन लेके भागा था और तभी से लेकर के ये हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन के साथ एक्टिव था.
According to the police, the 3 Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists killed were involved in a number of attacks on truck drivers in October last, which had created panic among apple growers and traders in the Kashmir Valley.
ये जो उग्रवादी थे इनमें शोपिया का डिस्ट्रिक्ट कमांडर वसीम वानी था. वह इस इलाके में जो सिविल ट्रक ड्राइवर मारे गए थे और जो एप्पल ऑर्चर्ड्स में नुकसान किया गया था उसमें इन्वॉल्व था.
Security forces insist there has been a decline in terrorist-related activities after the abrogation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, but infiltration attempts from across the line of control have intensified. 36 terrorists have been killed in the valley after the abrogation of Article 370 on the 5th of August 2019.
Adil Ahmed was the same SPO who fled with 7 AK-47 rifles from the legislature of People's Democratic Party from Srinagar. Since then, the police, army and other security agencies were looking for Adil. That is why the security forces believe that the killing of Adil is the major achievement for the security agencies in Kashmir. With Rauf Ahmed, Ashrafani for India Today in Srinagar.
But there still is clear and present danger at the line of control and across in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, where Pakistan is desperately trying to push terrorists into foreign trouble in the Kashmir Valley. India Today's defense editor Abhishek Bhalla was at the line of control and reports on Pakistan Army's desperate measures. They're hiding amongst civilians to target India's defenses. And of course, let's also tell you about India's punitive response.
At the line of control, this winter has been a busy one. There has been no let-up in the cross-border shelling this time. The shells on either side relentlessly breaking the placid cover of a world that should have stayed white, but instead has turned red.
We are at a forward post of the Indian Army at the line of control, which is barely a few hundred meters away from the Pakistani posts. There is eyeball to eyeball contact and often there is exchange of fire and shelling from both the sides.
The higher reaches of Kashmir are covered under snow. The focus of surveillance has shifted to the south of Pir Panjal range. Areas like Naushera, Sundarbani, Krishna Ghati, Bhimber Gali, Poonch remain tense with frequent shelling and skirmishes between the opposing sides.
Pakistan has stationed its detachments of ISI, or it houses terrorists in few of these houses. Some, in fact, we are aware of and have identified. And these houses are used by Pakistan to assist in infiltration by terrorists from that area.
From inside the surveillance center, across the LOC, the Indian Army picks up all suspected movements and activities, even in civilian homes that are categorized as suspected houses.
नंबर 1 के पास कोई सच्ची हरकत दिखाई दे रही है. आपके पोस्ट के सामने एक सिविलियन दिखाई दे रहा है, लेकिन इसके हाथ में बाइनोकुलर्स है. आप अपना सर्विलेंस को पूरा जारी रखो और अपना नजदीक वाला एम्बुश को तुरंत पास कर दो. ओवर.
There is a flurry of intelligence inputs about militants gathering and using different routes to enter. On the basis of these inputs, the surveillance team of the army carries out its patrolling and border manning activities.
These surveillance give me an added extended range, and therefore those areas which are not visible, those dead grounds which we are not able to observe, night when the visibility is poor. Those are the times when this technology is able to help us.
The threat perception remains high and infiltration bids continue 24/7. According to an analysis done by the Indian Army, Pakistan has been slowly enhancing its firepower by moving its artillery close to the line of control and also marginally increasing the number of troops deployed along their side of the fence after the abrogation of Article 370. Currently, nearly 2,000 troops of the Special Service Group or the SSG are deployed at the LOC by Pakistan along with its Army's Special Operations Wing.
The large populated area in front of us is actually part of the POK. Now, what we are aware is that the posts are co-located with these villages, and therefore they have been using these houses, these buildings which are co-located with their post as a shield. And therefore we, being a disciplined army, so whenever we are firing, we make sure that we try and avoid all kinds of civilian activities. And at times we have also seen the troops movement in the garb of the civil population, and that again is something which we keep notice of. But however, we make sure that we try and avoid any kind of collateral damage, even though it may be the population on the other side.
Surveillance and patrolling continues, defying the challenges of the terrain or weather conditions.
Even at this hour, when the temperatures are dipping to sub-zero degrees, they are out there keeping a close watch on whatever is happening. There have been a lot of ceasefire violations here in the last few days, and this area where we are is called the Nangi Tekri area, and over the last few days, a lot of movement is also taking place of terrorists in the area. There are several terror launch pads in the proximity, and the frequency of ceasefire violations has been increasing of late. With camera person Shakil Ahmed from the KG sector at the line of control, Abhishek Bhalla for India Today.
And Abhishek Bhalla with me on the broadcast. Abhishek, how deep are forces able to look inside Pakistan-occupied Kashmir with the technology that's now been brought in?
Well, in certain areas, the distance is extremely close. There's eyeball-to-eyeball contact, but obviously these civilian homes, which are, being run in the garb as civilian homes, which are actually terror launch pads, can be 2 to 3 kilometers away from the line of control. So with the help of this technology, the army makes sure that they can catch activities in these suspected houses, and whenever there is movement towards the line of control, the Indian Army ups its game and ensures that these infiltration bids can be foiled. Also, there has been a lot of damage to military infrastructure as far as Pakistan is concerned, and also Indian Army has gathered that ex-servicemen of the Pakistani forces are also getting land. They are staying there, assisting the Pakistani forces to tie up with civilians in the area to carry out these kind of shallow infiltrations.
Okay, but with technology, the moment you spot infiltrators come closer to the line of control with weapons, cameras spot them, and then they're neutralized with standoff weapons. The army is now using, whether it's mortars or artillery, they're not restricting their response only to small arms.
Certainly not, and these surveillance centers are manned 24/7, and I was there in one of those surveillance centers, and in real time actually we saw some suspicious movement that was picked up, and within seconds the message was relayed to the field commanders, people actually on the ground right at the line of control, and they were alerted. So this happens through the day, and what I gathered over there was that the frequency of such alerts has gone up manifold in the last few months, because south of Pir Panjal, where there is less snow, infiltration attempts are much more than the northern reaches of Kashmir.
Okay, so north of Pir Panjal, there is a thick blanket of snow. Desperate Pakistani terrorists still attempt north of Pir Panjal in some areas. South of Pir Panjal, where it's extremely cold but no snow, as India Today's Abhishek Bhalla was just reporting, this is where the focus of infiltration from Pakistan's side is, and that is how it's being countered. Abhishek Bhalla, for the moment, many thanks for joining me.
That is all we have time for in this bulletin. Many thanks for watching. Remember, as of now, after abrogation of Article 370, the situation in Jammu and Kashmir and in Ladakh, it's peaceful. A number of restrictions that were put in place, they're gradually being withdrawn. But the litmus test would be the summer of 2020. And we'll be tracking that very, very closely. That is all I have time for on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching.